This video is hopefully going to give you an idea on installing the EGR emulators to a Discovery 3, Discovery 4 and Range Rover Sport. Removing the left hand side EGR plug. When removing the EGR plug, it helps if you can get some sort of hook tool and you can hook it under the tang of the plug. Don't rip it up, you'll break the side of the plug, just tease it up and it should come out quite easy. Once you've got the plug out, do the same to the other side. Installing the left hand side emulator. I've removed the lid off the right hand side box and then you can just lay your conduit over the top of the engine. It's good to come underneath that hose at the rear because it's got less chance of rubbing on the engine cover. You can plug in the EGR emulator and then just route the conduit tidy. In the plastic plenum that runs over the top of the engine, there's some slots that are really handy for cable tying it up out the way. Installing the right hand side emulator. It's pretty much the same procedure installing the right hand side emulator. There's a few more hoses and pipes to navigate around, but you can feed it through underneath. Luckily you can't plug the EGR plug in the wrong way. And once you got that plugged in, same again, just route the conduit tidy. Removing the plastic partition to mount the emulators. This is where the hook tool comes in handy again. The heat shield's missing off this one. You can just see down the side of the plastic where it screws in there. There's 2 clips on the side and 2 clips on the front. Starting to make hard work of this, trying to hold the camera and release the clips. Once you've managed to release all the clips, then the cover should just slide out. Mounting the emulators. I've mounted the emulators onto the side cover using 4 self-tapping screws. Refitting the cover. The cover's a lot easier putting it back in than it is taking it out. If you've mounted the emulators on the front side of it like I have, you'll have to just tuck it under the ABS pipes. Once the emulator's in place, you can put the cover back into its slot. The finished install. I've refit the box lid and the engine cover, and then it's just time to check that everything's fastened up in the right place. Make sure there's no kinks at the back as it comes up from the engine cover. When you put the cable ties through the plenum towards the middle, you might just have to pull the rubber seal forward to see the slots. On the Discovery 3, you can mount the emulators on either side of the panel. On the Discovery 4, you've got the transfer case ECU on the side, so you can mount them where I have. Reading the stored engine fault codes. We'll read the fault codes stored in the engine management. Don't worry if you haven't got diagnostic kit for this stuff. Once you start the car up with a working set of emulators, then any faults will become historical faults and there'll be nothing to keep the engine management light on. You can see on that screen are 2 faults that related to the left-hand EGR. Clearing the stored fault codes. We're back onto the screen with the 2 fault codes and this time we'll clear them. Like I said before, don't worry if you haven't got diagnostic kit for this stuff. Once you start the engine with a working set of emulators, there'll be no current faults that will put the check engine light on. This screen I've gone into shows the dynamic values of the EGR system. The top two values are what the engine ECU is commanding, what it wants to see, and the two values underneath that, right hand bank and left hand bank, are what our emulators are feeding back. As we can see, there's no faults. Back into the dynamic data, and we can see them both emulating. So it's time to exit out of the diagnostics and take it for a road test. The recheck after a 50-kilometer road test. I took the car for a good 50-kilometer road test, and now I'll just go back in and check I've got no fault codes. That's always a nice screen to see when you've got no faults. And back into the dynamic page. There's no reason why the emulators shouldn't last the life of your car, and a positive from fitting the emulators versus EGR valves is on all tests about an 8 to 12% benefit in fuel economy. Well, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy your time being EGR fault free.